Into the next session, we're going to have the pastor of the shelter. And now, when I say, please welcome him for me, I need you to really do it as in you need with a ponderous applause. Please make welcome with me, Pastor Ayoola Jolayemi. Please rise to your feet, Aurora, as we listen to his bio.
Professional with more than 2 decades of rich experience in business development, project management, sales, process management in infrastructure, services, IT, and marketing communication. An entrepreneur who has been building budding business ventures, sustained by building and entertaining value delivery to key corporate and government decision makers. He has been involved in management in several capacities both within and outside Nigeria. He is currently the Executive Director, Riverbank Technologies and Engineering Services Limited. He also serves as the lead pastor of RCCG, The Shelter. He is married to Sheyi Jolayemi and they are blessed with 3 boys. Please make welcome Ayoola Jolayemi.
All right. Please be seated. It was the year 1988, and a report card came home, and the report card said, very brilliant, extremely intelligent, but highly unfriendly. And Mom called me into her room and said, young man, she said it in Yoruba. She said, "Ṣó mọ̀ pé èèyàn láṣọ èèyàn." And that statement in 1988 formed or shaped my adult life going forward. And that was because I grew to know that no matter how far you desire to go, no matter how successful you hope to be, you are only as acclaimed, you are only as accepted as your association. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a joy to be here with you, and I'm celebrating my pastor, Uche Chukwu Ogu, on his 30th birthday. Please celebrate him today. I'm sure you can celebrate him more than that. Thank you for this. I call it a knowledge sharing session because life hacks are literally, I'll call them shortcuts to being a better version of ourselves. So when you see something is a hack, it means it's a never before known approach to tackling a problem. And sometimes it's always an easier path or path less followed. So I was asked to speak on the power of a strong network. And like I said, my mom said to me that year, "Èèyàn láṣọ èèyàn," which means humans are the cloth by which we are covered, or by which our nakedness is hidden from others. The network, pretty much, and so for most of us, we see it from the cliche of you go to a party, you go to a meeting, or you come to even a gathering like this, and they tell you to network, right? And then you go and then you collect complimentary cards, and that is the end of it. Anybody been in that shoe before? And you go there, "Oh, my name is Ayoola Jolayemi, I'm this, I'm that. Can I have your number, please?" And you never dial. Or you dial once and you get a cold shoulder and you move on. Networking is purely connections. It's building bridges, it's opening up new vistas, exploring possibilities that are hitherto unexplored. And human beings are literally like the synapse or the ducts through which we open up new opportunities. So human beings are ducts, they are doors. And they can actually either be opened or locked. And depending on how you explore them, you can either make the most of them or mar yourself. It depends on how best you make the use of it. So whether we like it or not, if we're going to grow old and not grow alone, we must build connections. So see network from the perspective of connections, being connected, being interwoven, being intertwined, being with people, immersed. Now, as you grow on in life, you would have varying types of connections, and they cut across the various strata of our life. You have spiritual connections, you have social connections, you have professional connections, you have emotional connections. And whether we like it or not, each of these connections that you will call networks have a role to play in shaping your culture, shaping your worldview, shaping the opportunities that come to you, and shaping how you manage crisis. Many of us have had to be in bad situations and we suffered. We suffered so much because we are alone. We suffered so much because there's no one that could share in our pain, understand what we're really going through, and offer the right kind of succor in those moments. Is there someone who has been in that situation before? Where you just cannot express yourself because the people that are with you are not connected to you. You are not alone, but you are lonely. Many of us are in the midst of a lot of noise, but it's pin silence where it matters the most. The power of a strong network. What is power? Physics tells us power is what? The ability to do work. So the power of a strong network is the ability of the people or the connection you have to get work done. So the ability to get work done is built by the quality, not the quantity of your connections. That is why it was spoken in scripture that says one with God is a majority. A connection with God is as much as a connection with 1 billion souls. So it's important that we understand critically that no matter how much we want to say, oh, I'm a one-man army, I do my thing my way, I know my way, I have my way around these things. The quality of the people that we find ourselves with determines the quality of our lives. So I have to ask this question. Who is in your corner? And in whose corner are you? Many of us are so quick to say, I want the right kind of people around me. I want the right kinds of friends. The question is, are you the right person? Are you the right kind of friend? I've suffered in this life. Yeah, I've really had very tough moments in my life. I've had to question my beliefs and my belief system. And all of these had to be because of the people that I had to be around. And I told myself that I was going to, it's life hacks, right? So I said to myself that there will be some vulnerabilities that will come in the midst of this. And that's because I know that part of being connected is being open. Because they will say the port is open, and that's a connection has been established. So that I'm plugged in does not mean I'm on. So I'm here, not just plugged in, but I want to be what? Switched on. I've suffered in this life, really suffered. And the reason for my suffering was not because I was alone, but I was very lonely. I was a brilliant guy in school, but I was a very sick child. I had asthma at a very young age. By the age of 3, I was already on medications for asthma. By 5, I had measles that went into my eyes, and I had to do an eye surgery to wash my eyes because I was literally always going with bloodshot eyes to school. So when people say it was unfriendly, what it was I was shy and ashamed of my look. I was staying away from people. My parents were not very wealthy. They were very poor people, a soldier and a teacher, a primary school teacher and that. and they could not afford glasses. I had to go to the Navy hospital to get my eyes washed because that was all we could afford at the time. It was free. So, what people would see and say, oh, he's brilliant, but he wants to keep to himself. He doesn't want to teach people how to be brilliant. He was selfish. He wants to shine all by himself. Was just a coping mechanism I had to hide away from the eyes that was always bloodshot. And I could not laugh because laughter triggered asthma. I could not cry because crying triggered asthma. I couldn't share a joke because all of that would make me have an episode in school. So people saw a guy who wasn't friendly, but here was a guy who was trying to survive. I'm sure this probably tells the story of someone here who is probably in the face and they're wondering, oh, I'm being misunderstood. Yes, you're being misunderstood because no one knows your story. I was afraid to tell people because we were taught to be faithful, faith-filled. I grew up in the house of a pastor. I started playing the piano at a very young age. Do, mi, re, fa, mi, so, fa, la, so. By 7, I was already playing the organ in the church choir. So literally, I grew up in the walls of suck it in, confess it. And so when people say, what is wrong with you? I'm blessed and I'm highly favored. And so there were people I was plugged into, but the port wasn't open. So it continued that way until it got to the point where all the people that I loved so much, I lost them. I had a little crush at the age of 11, Sarah Ojoare, God bless you wherever you are. And because I was scared of having to share laughter and break down in front of her, I stayed away. I looked at her from afar while other boys were busy, shooting their shots, and my heart will break. And then it was 13, I had another girl I had a crush on. Her name is Olayemi Ka. So much so that I sang a song with her. Olayemi Ka, a song I never sung to her. I only sung in the solitude of my home. Because I did not know if my eyes or the asthma would take the front stage at that time. Connections are important, but more often than not, we are products of our growing up. And by the time I became a young man, thank God for my wife who chose to show me she loved me even when I couldn't approach her. It formed how I lived, it formed how I worked, it formed how I wanted to be seen or be known. I just wanted to do my thing. But little did I know that life can never be done alone. So I had to start understanding critically what it meant to have quality connections. And so when I met my wife in the year 2000, exactly 23 years ago, April 23rd will make it 23 years that I met my wife. Not that I got married to her, but when I met her. And she pretty much changed my worldview. Why? She was an exciting young woman, boisterous, full of life. And by the time I heard her story, she had had worse life than I had had. She had been rich, very poor, poorer than the poor, that the poor will call you poor, and then back to being rich. So she had seen it all. I never knew what it felt like to be rich. So I didn't have any benchmark. It was just a poor boy. But she showed me life. She showed me what it meant to have conversations, how to build connections, and how to sustain them. So I'll be using that as a background for that which I'll be sharing with us today. No matter how much we see or expect the good of life, you need people to either stabilize you or springboard you. I said that again. No matter how much you desire for life, you need people to springboard you or to what? Stabilize you. What are springboards? Springboards are like that trampoline that you step on. You want to have fun and play. But also, it is what bumps you from a lower level to what? An excited level. Now, when a set of people bump you up to an excited level, it takes another set of people to keep you in a stable form in that excited level. The mistake you will make is to think that every network is all the network you need. So I have a network of people that are responsible for springboarding me. It does not mean that that same network is what will be required to stabilize me. What you will be making as a mistake is that you will lose valuable relationships because you have misplaced their responsibilities. Many of us are in that space right now where some people brought us to where we are, but we want them to take us to a different level. Their job is done. Now, because a person's job is done does not mean they are meant to live your life. That is why you have distant connections, proximal connections, and sustained connections. Some connections are just for a while, but they can be kept serviced by what we call warm calls. But the more important thing is, as we grow in life, you must begin to explore and ask yourself questions. What do I really want out of life? Because when you answer the question of what you want out of life, you can then know what kind of connections you need to build as you go on the way. So, let's us establish first, how do I make the connection? How do I make the connection? The biggest tool for connection is first communication. As a project manager certified and having worked for the last 18 years of my life in various sectors of the economy, built businesses and sitting on 11 boards, I can tell you for free that the biggest mistake anybody can do is to think they are talking when there is no response. If I don't understand you, the Chinese proverb says, until an understanding is gotten, communication has not been established. So, which is why you see a Chinese man, if you see them, they will repeat the statements you made back to you, just to let you know that, is this what you're saying? So you can at least be sure that, am I saying what you're saying? So like I said, at 8, at 13, at 11, at 17, I had different crushes. But I'm sure maybe someday, somehow, maybe yonder year to come, I'll tell them that I had a crush on them. Hopefully, maybe. Okay, I've told the one at 17. Why did you tell me? I love you too. But unfortunately, Barrister Sokwe Otilo has judged on the case. Because at that instance, Barrister showed me Shege. And that was because I was driven and controlled by my insecurities. My eyes they see my eyes, oh, your eyes is so sexy. Let me take off the glasses. Yeah. I have natural Tiro. I've had people ask me, they come to do like this. They want to clean it off. And somebody has felt that way, right? Like Pastor is doing Tiro. That's why one person said I used to do juju. Now that's why I'm irresistible, because my eyes carry juju. But yeah, the eyes that was a problem is now a better problem. Because the eye says, it's calling me. Why am I saying this? Communication is so important. And you must be able to first take the first step of approaching the person or the people that you believe you want to build a connection. You see, I stopped using the word network and started using the word connection, because it's a more practical, personal way of describing what I believe we should be doing. A connection to the person means that there is a common interest. There is something you want, there is something you have to offer. Never ever think of a connection from a one-sided point of view. A network or a communication or a connection is a two-way street. So you must first establish the connection. That is why when you want to make a call, or if you're in IT and you're trying to connect to a server, it says, wait while we try to do what? Establish a connection. Why is that so? Because that is the very first step. You must take a move from where you are to approaching the person. My wife approached me. She left where she was. And she goes, hey, young man, my name is Shay. Can I know you? And I reciprocated. I'm Ayoola. So a connection must first be established. And once a connection is established, but let me backtrack a bit. And that is first to do a place of research. And I'll explain to you why research is so important. Everyone in this room has what is called a digital footprint. What did I call it? Say it again. In this day and age of technology, a digital footprint is like my resume on the internet. So your interests, the things you do, the places you go, how you do the things you do, litter different places on the web. The sites you visit, the posts you interact with, your interests pretty much will be available for someone who wants to find out, right? So let's say I want to connect with Alex. When Alex was going to come and see me, Alex is one of the guys that had worked with me very closely, and he came in from Accra and said, I'd like you. I want you to be, but he saw the first thing he did was to look for a gap. Someone would see him and say, he's an opportunist, but no, he pretty much just knew what the gap was. Why? Because he explored the power of research. So he did a research on me. This man doesn't like to post. I like to post. I know to post. I know what to post. I can help you manage your pages. I can help you handle your emails. I like to write. I know how to write. And then I checked him out and he ticked all the boxes, right? So when he felt he had researched, the next thing he did was to establish a what? A connection. And when he established a connection, the third thing he did was to propose value, not receive value. Was to propose value. People call it value proposition. Not so. So you propose value. And the only way you can propose value is when you know a need. And I will say this, I've said it before in church, and I'll just say it again here. If you want to be valued, you must have values. And when you have values, you can offer value. So what I'm offering and who I am are two different things, right? So I have values. I'm for good works. I'm for this. I'm for that. And then all of that coming together creates what I can offer to you, and that is value. So every connection must be from a value standpoint. Every. Whether it is social, I mentioned already earlier the various connections you must have: social, emotional, spiritual, professional, social, professional, spiritual, or career-wise, whatever it is you want to call it, career or job. So professional connections, spiritual connections, emotional connections, social connections. Whatever those connections are, it must come from a value point of view. So what are you offering? What do you have to offer? The man that God has used the most in my life as one of the biggest influences is my father-in-law. And my father-in-law, when I met him, one of the boys in the house then said, what is this man with his tie getting up to his, something, looking for in our house? And the very first day I got there, I had seen that he was a medical doctor who was into renewable energy, who loved to invent. So when I got in there, I had my thinking caps on, and the conversation that day stayed with him forever. And he still references it till today. Why? I knew that if I got in there and I made a wrong first impression, I might never have a second chance to create a first impression. So I came from a value point of view. And this is not you trying, not me saying you should be very tactical or try, but trust me, I'm saying it again and again. You must be strategic about every connection you make. And that is why I'm saying to you, not everybody is your friend. Not everybody is meant to be your chatmate. Not everybody is meant to be an acquaintance or even an associate. Some people are just touch and go. You must have that at the back of your mind, because you don't want to, because some people are drainers. And because you're connected to them does not mean that it would make any value either to you or to them. They don't gain, you don't gain. It doesn't make the world a better place. So you must do your research, check about Chooks. What does he like? What does he want? What does he lack? And then when I do a research, I establish a connection. And then I make the first step to establish a connection. And then I begin to do what? Add value. Why is it important that we don't take these things for granted? It's because, for instance, in my own life, I have built relationships that have lasted as much as 4 decades. I've built relationships that have lasted as much as 2 decades. And I've built relationships that were just purely transactional. Are you getting my point? So never mistake a transformational relationship for a transactional relationship. So a connection that would be for your emotional success or emotional stability might never give you financial stability or financial benefits. Are you getting my point? The fact that I have a friend that meets an emotional need is just that person I find as my go-to to talk to when I feel heavy, does not mean that we will do business together. Does not mean we would have sexual intimacy. So many of us have misused connections. So this connection is meant to be for, Pastor Uche says, talk to these people. It would be an error for me to think that you are all my business partners. Are you getting my point? You all cannot be my business partners, because the world doesn't work that way. The equilibrium that the world creates is such that one eats one gets from one feeds one draws from another. So that's the only way the world is made to go round. So the connections are like interconnected. Whether somebody who is giving you emotional satisfaction might be taking emotional satisfaction from somewhere else, might be taking financial satisfaction from somewhere else. But the simple truth is, those connections helps us to navigate times and seasons of our lives. When you are down, who do you turn to? Who can you really unburden to and not have to censor? Do you have? Do you have that individual that you can pour yourself out to without trying to look good? I do. I have 2 of them. I have my wife and I have my mentor. Something came in yesterday. I didn't think twice. I had not even sent to my wife. I sent to him. I said, so what do I do? And I said, wait, my wife has not heard about this one. Let me send to my wife. But I know that at that instance, the person that would be able to solve that challenge was him. So what are the benefits of having those connections? Number 1, it allows you to gain help, knowledge, and advice. It also allows you to give help, knowledge, and advice. So it allows you to gain help, knowledge, and advice. It also allows you to give help, knowledge, and advice. The second thing I'd like to establish, that it provides you opportunities to validate untested theories or untested ideas. What you will call a sounding board, right? So like I said, this applies not to every relationship or every connection. Some connections are just purely, top to bottom. But there are some, you must have that association that gives you the opportunity to test or validate untested ideas. So I have, like Pastor Uche is doing now with all of us, we're his guinea pig. I hope you know that. Abi, I'm not your guinea pig. So we're his guinea pig. And why is that so? We are his friends. He loves us, we love him. We would do anything for him without expecting any pecuniary benefit from it, right? and we would do it cheerfully. So it's important that you have that sort of group of people or connection where you can just have a validation of an idea. And that's one of the things I call validated learning. It's what I do a lot. I do validated learning. I test concept, I test ideas, I test product, I test my own personal hypothesis, I test these things in smaller groups, and then when I see I do it over and over again and it works, then I can take to a larger audience or a larger group, right? Number 4, it helps you, it gives you the chance to take advantage of others' expertise, others' network. It gives you the chance to take advantage, and I use the word take advantage there circumspectly, because it is not an exploitation, right? Because like I said, you're offering value in return, right? But it gives you a chance to take advantage of other people's network, of other people's advice, of other people's knowledge and other people's expertise. So it's important that you know that there are benefits to it. So let's look at the how. How do I maximize the networks or the connections I already have? Number 1, create a win-win situation. Create a what? So I'm coming to you, I'm saying, oh, my name is Ayoola Jolayemi, I am from this, I do that, I go here, I go there, these are the things I want to do. There must be a win-win. So there's no victor or vanquished. The moment you have any relationship in your life now, and I'm sure for some of you here you can relate, where you suddenly begin to feel like you are the giver and there is nothing you're being given in return, hostility begins to set in. Right? Some sort of hostility sets in. You just begin to feel superior. Out of nowhere, you start thinking, what are you bringing to the... I'm bringing my body as a living sacrifice. So you must always create a win-win situation. And how do you create a win-win situation? There must be a give and receive. There must be a give and receive. In networking or in establishing connections, you must always offer help before you ask for help. Sometimes your help might not be taken, but it shows you from a different perspective. You're no longer seen as a user. You are seen as a collaborator. The power of a strong network, first, is let's understand what a network is, how to make a network, and what you need to do to actually sustain that network. And then we can now talk about the power of strong networks. So give and receive must come you must create win-win by giving and receiving. And then you must be a connector. So it means that if I do not have the solution to what you need, I must also have another connection that brings another connection to solve that problem. Are you getting my point? So for instance, Chuk says to me, Pastor, this. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Don't worry, I got you covered. And truly, he goes out to make sure that that problem is solved. He becomes a valued asset. You know, many of us have assets, and then we have valued assets. People that when we just want to think about, when the problem springs up, their name just comes to mind as the go-to guys. Who has that kind of person in their corner? Like something just springs up, and you're like, hey, can I just sound this by you? Can I run this by you? Do you have a minute right now? Be a connector. Become a connector. And then the final point I'll put on that is never be afraid to reconnect. Never be afraid to reconnect. There are times when, for instance, you took a card. You tried to, build a relationship with someone. Your bad behavior came to play. Don't feel it with your bad behavior. You took the card. You called once, and that was it. And you just, gave up, and then you walked away. And for this point, I'd like to put one point very clearly to us here, and that's the fact that you can be resilient without being a nuisance. Because some people are nuisance. They just stress you like, can you just stop calling my phone? And the only way you can stop being a nuisance is when you offer value. Anybody that brings value to the table is never ignored. Never. Never ignored. But if you're a taker, you're not a nuisance. They will block your number. They will just block your number. Like, why am I not getting through to this person anymore? You're a nuisance. So you can be resilient. So when I say remember to reconnect, or never be too afraid to reconnect, you must remember not to become a nuisance. And that means you must think through, be circumspect. What did I do wrong in the initial point? How did I lose this connection? And what do I need to do to reconnect? What do I need to do? And that is being resilient. You can't give up. I had a friend that was into real estate. He walked up to me and said, "Oh, I want you to invest in this business. I need about 80 million naira for that." Oh, yeah, I have this money, but I'm not giving to you. And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you only remember my phone number when you need help." And he paused for a minute and said, "No." I said, "Do you want instances?" I said, "The moment this is done," I said, "I'm not a transactional friend. If I'm an investor, I will take margins from you. So are you asking me to invest? Then bring a contract, let's sign. But if you only remember I have a phone number when you need help, I'm not your tool that is used and returned back into the tool box." So I said he must be resilient, but don't be what? A nuisance. So the power of a strong network. We don't know how much a network can ever do for us. We don't know until needs begin to arise. One of my friends was caught by the police. He didn't do anything. So I'll put a caveat there. It was just wrongly accused. He had been locked up for 48 hours already at the time. And a call came through to me and said, "Oh, Pastor, there's this guy that we need to..." So what I had to do was I had to call my friend. And this friend I met in the most unusual circumstance. At the time I met him, he was just a student of Babcock University. I was serving then, and it was just some very random guy. And we had a conversation, and at the time, his father was the DIG. That's the Deputy Inspector General of Police. I never knew he was going to go into the force. But then I Googled his name that day, and his name popped up. I'm like, "Oh, so this guy is..." So I called him, "Hey, what's up, TJ? How you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm fine. No, I'm good. Blah, 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 blah." "My guy is in your cell." "Where?" Now, at the time I met him then, I know I'm going somewhere that value. At the time I met him there, he would come to my house then on Ilu Drive in Ikoyi, and he was going to the club in K's place, and he would stay over. I feed them. Students, don't forget. I feed them. They'll do whatever they have to do. They'll go back to school. Come back again next Friday. Go to club. I never judged them. I would just preach Jesus to them. Say, "This life you're living, a thou." And then that went on. When they came out of school, we were all together in Ikoyi for about 2 years before I got married. And in all those years, he just saw this guy that was just different from the other guys. I won't drink with them. I won't smoke with them. When it's time for them to carry women, I'm not there, but you are in our midst. So he said, "What's your deal? Are you a CIA agent? Are you an undercover?" I said, "I'm a child of God." Fast forward 6.5 months after that, he gave his life to Christ. Now, you see the journey that 15 years after, a need came, and he was there to make that happen. My friend was released without, you know what I mean, right? 2012, I had a business to do. I went to India, got a franchise. I couldn't afford to pay the money. $250,000 US. I could not afford it. Just a small boy with a big God. But then I had a mentor who had never done me financial good. Never. But will use me like rainwater. And I was happy because that was what I signed up for. I went in to say, I can do this for you. I can make your life easier. I can make your life better. And he took it for full milking. And he milked it to the maximum. Very milked. He said, CEO. I said, sir. So where are you? You need to go to Zamfara for me. Sir. I said, you said you're available, sir. Fast forward 2012. I had this franchise. I needed 250,000 US dollars. I didn't have money. And all he had to do was, oh, that idea you said you wanted to do. I think I know who you should talk to. I'll call this person for you. Go and sit down with him and tell him you are from me. I had my deck on the screen. Want to start presenting, the man said, you say you are from who? Please shut it down. Call me the MD of the bank. The power of a strong network. Fast forward 2020. I had another job. Great job. But I didn't have the money to execute it. But there was this young man that when I was the choir master in a church in Bagada, was in the media department. Great guy. And then he saw me and he said, oh, how are you? What do you do now? I said, I have this job I want to do. Oh, great job. And that's what I do. I said, oh, really? What volume of job has your company done? He explained to me. I looked at his stuff and I said, can I run this job on your company? He said, why not? I honor you, sir. I've always admired you from afar. I said, can we put pen to paper? He said, why not, sir? So I had done him great. He had admired me from afar. It was easy for us to do business, and the rest, like they say, is history. The power of a strong network is much more than what you have to offer. What you stand to gain becomes even beyond what you can imagine. But never let what you want to gain be the reason why you are sustaining the relationship. Rather, let it be about what you have to offer. So why is it so? You must always be a person of value for you to be valued. You must always be a person of value. I am value personified. I can do anything for no blessing, for no cash, but cash always comes. It might not come from the person, but it always comes. It always comes, because any person who is a channel would always have substance flow through them. Here. Every channel connected always has substance flowing through them. That's why your data, when you have 5G, finishes faster than when you have 3G, because that's the power of a strong network. So big things flow through strong networks. Great things get done through strong networks. Issues get resolved through strong networks. Your emotional baggage is minimized when you have a strong network, because strong networks are emotionally secure people, and you can always thrash issues when you have strong networks. And I'll put this on my table finally. Never be too afraid to have difficult conversations. One of the biggest problems why we have server failure, server code disconnections, people losing relationships, is because we are always too afraid to have the difficult conversations. Have them. It makes you a better person. Have them. It builds you and builds your resilience. Have them. It creates the chance to know the things you don't even know existed. Have them. Have the difficult conversations. Have them. I love you, but your mouth smells. Can we fix it? Can we fix it? Now, what have I done? I did not come from a derogatory point of view. I offered a solution. Can we fix it? So I have offered you my love. I've pointed out the problem, but I'm telling you, I'm sticking with you. Somebody just popped a candy. Have the difficult conversations. When you have difficult conversations, it builds your inner voice. Because when you do not have difficult conversations, you are always condescending when you are having internal conversations. Many of us don't know that we speak more to ourselves than we speak to others. So unless you have the difficult conversations, you will be a riot happening on your inside when you should be at peace. Have the difficult conversations. You want to tell them you love them, go ahead. It's a difficult conversation at that moment. What's the worst that can happen? A no. I had to make peace with that. I was talking to some of my mentees and I said to them that the biggest trouble I had to deal with was the fear of rejection. So I stayed away from talking to people. I stayed away from expressing myself because I had things I was dealing with. They were long gone. My eyes are clear. Asthma is gone, but I'm still living with the scars that were created by those things. But until you start having those difficult conversations, you will not be able to conquer your inner devils. Have them. Talk to people. Build bridges. Build strong networks. But more importantly, be a strong connector. Thank you very much, guys. Right. So do I calm down? Thank you very much.
Please, can you continue giving him a round of applause?